kitchen. I mean, all the peelings were done. You know, all the potatoes were peeled in the kitchen. All the veg were prepared in the kitchen.
Yeah,
they'd be
in the veg in the old kitchen.
They'd be there with their sacks tied around their waist, and the women, about 8 of them, to prepare all the veg.
You had so many working in the bread pantry, where all the bread was cut, came out of the ovens in the kitchen then, didn't it? It was made on in the hospital.
It was hard, because, do you remember the old kitchen, don't you? It was hard, wasn't it? It was really hard. Considering in later years, when we came to the new kitchen, we were working on a bonus where we got paid extra money. But it was easier work in the new kitchen, where we were having bonus, than the old kitchen where we didn't have bonus. We had coal fires, coal fish fryers.
Then we had this cold fish fryer. Well, that was horrendous, that was. Because your kitchen porter, he start at 7:30 in the morning, and he'd be dressed in white and his blue jeans, and by 12 o'clock he'd be like he'd be covered in coal, he'd be black all over him, because you'd have to keep these fires going, and as soon as you put the chips in, the fish fryers just went cold again. So it was a job and a half, cooking fish and chips for patients.
You get a few funny incidents happening when you are involved in cooking with the patients. I can remember one time when we were on River Ward, we made a Christmas cake, and this particular patient who got very involved in it, and she was so excited that we'd made this lovely Christmas cake, and it was in the oven, and I think I was going off duty, and Sister Nellie had got instructions what time to check the oven and so on. And this particular patient got everybody around at tea time, opened the oven door and brought all the other patients to have a look at this Christmas cake, which was rapidly going down as the door was open.
Christmas Eve, that's when we did all of the hard, really hard. That's when the turkeys came, because the turkeys used to be plucked. When we first started, they used to be plucked in the butchers, which were in the stores then. And they used to send them up to the kitchen, and we had to gut them. Oh, was that awful job, like. It's not like today, frozen, they just fling them in, I think you've seen the photos, it's all around the tables, with the turkey.
They turned out another Christmas dinner for the staff ball, and another Christmas dinner for the patient's ball. And it was a full trimming, so nothing. Beautiful it was. And to think that those three, plus the help that they had from the patients that worked there, marvellous.
Christmas time, there was occasions where perhaps we would be asked to go up by Mr. Montgomery and just lend a hand in the bakehouse department there, where they had huge bowls, troughs really, of Christmas cake mix. And what we used to have to do is walk in there and be given a shovel to actually transfer the mixture from one side of the actual trough to the other, so that the whole ingredients were getting mixed up for the actual readiness of making the cakes. That obviously was the job of the cooks of the catering department.
We used to have a big shovel, we used to go to the stores, and they used to give you a big shovel. You get about 2 big shovels to mix all this stuff in. Because at Christmas it was, for those of us that wanted to do it, it was the most, well, you earned your money then, didn't you, because you started in November doing these Christmas cakes and then wrapping them up, and then in December you'd start on the marzipan in them and icing them, but by the time Christmas Day came, you couldn't get a knife into these cakes, it was so hard, because in the beginning we hadn't heard of glycerine, so we didn't know about this, so you'd be there and these walls, you'd be stabbing these cakes, and you'd never get the knives, and they were so hard. I mean, if they dropped on your foot, they'd do a lot of damage, these Christmas cakes did.
And on a Christmas Day, most people started early then, not just 1 or 2, because it was a busy day, like it. Most people start at 6. It's very rare anybody was late. They'd be late in the year, but not on Christmas Day when there's a lot of work. They'd all turn up, you know. It's really good. And Christmas puddings. We used to have big troughs, you know, to make the Christmas puddings. It used to take us a fortnight. We used to mix all the stuff in. It used to take about a fortnight, just keep mixing it. Before we had, well, we used to have a bottle of beer. Like, I'm not saying it all went to the pudding, like, well, a lot of it did, but some of it went to the staff, obviously. Like
the kitchen porters in the old kitchen used to wash by hand. In the beginning, it was the patients that used to do it. There used to be 2 or 3 or maybe 4 patients that used to wash by hand. Then they moved these big troughs up into the kitchen. Well, they were huge. And they had to put hot water in by hand. There was no taps on them then. This was when they were first put there.
We used to have tea chests, and tea chests were £100 tea chests of actual loose tea that we used to have to buy in individual packs of perhaps £0.5, £1, £3, whatever, depending on the department or the ward they were actually sent to. The same applied to the sugar. They used to come in, I think it was £112 bags in them days, and we used to have to do the same with that. There was a great deal of actual weighing out of items that actually came in bulk to the stores. That it was very time consuming, but this is what we used to have to do on a daily basis.
We had to go in the back. We used to have the patients like helping with the food, preparing the veg, potatoes. The amount of stuff we used to get from the garden was incredible. Like, it wasn't a bag of spuds and so much of cabbage. It was truckfuls of cabbage. We used to have fresh peas, sweets, carrots, everything came from the gardens.
We used to go to the stores where they had a menu there for the patients and staff, which told you what amount of cabbage or onions or lettuce that there was needed for each. And
the hospital also used to grow a large amount of potatoes and sweets, another source of supply for the hospital, and used to grow a lot of wheat and barley, and then after threshing day this would be transported to Ensign to turn into flour to the mill in Ensign.
At the farm they had their own staff.
Yeah.
And there was things like swedes and things like that, which we grew on the farm.
The earliest recollection of the farm was when we visited as children, where my father worked as a cowman. Other members of the farm were Jack Evans the bailiff, Evan Jones the tractor driver, Tom Davies and Edwin Roberts carters, Joe Bumby and Evan Williams cowmen. Also on the farm was Mr. Johnny Maddox, slaughterman and butcher. The farm had a huge dairy herd which provided the hospital with daily milk. They also had 2 massive bulls. They also kept a large piggery and fowls. We supplied the hospital with eggs. Johnny Maddox used to slaughter, and then which provided the hospital with meat.
The only time that we did do a lot with the farm was when the farm went on fire. And it was all
when was that?
Men available to help out.
Man with pumps, is it?
That's right. Well, yes, various things at that particular time that we helped out with.
Unfortunately, there was a huge fire which destroyed a lot of the farm buildings in 1955. And shortly after that it became national policy to do away with farms attached to large mental hospitals, although the farm at Denby was very successful, but it had to close.
The patients used to do a lot of work again in those days, didn't they? The females worked in the kitchen, in the laundry. The men worked outside, and they were very handy for the electricians. As electricians, used to open trenches in it.
Some wards who had teams of workers, I'm thinking really of male 9 and male 6 and male 4, they had teams of patients for different tasks, whether it be gardens or whatever. So when spare teams, they went down with their snapping, their tea, an urn of tea and things like that. They went down to, and their job was, actually, I was told that visualizing it from the top, looking down, it seemed like a paddy field from a film of some scene in China, with people pushing barrows and backwards and forwards. And these were the patients from the wards. They worked there till 12 o'clock, came back up, had their lunch, and then went back from 1:30 till 4 o'clock.
Formaldehyde and sulfonol. Do you remember sulfonol? That was more for keeping them quiet than for any treatment.
Well, that's all you could do, wasn't it? There's no treatments as such, just sedation, wasn't it?
And when it's, you know, if they were very, very bad, then they'd have their injections of morphia, iodine and morphia.
A lot of patients, I used to go down to the wards, male 7, male 4, and collect the patients. We had about 15 on the male side working. They'd help us in the laundry, the washing machines, and folding the clothes and hanging them up in the hot rooms. Those days we had hot rooms where they had to be 3 times in a day. You know, you'd hang the clothes up, and then when they dry, you'd take them down, and then they'd go up to the female patients to be ironed, the shirts and stuff. The towels would go to the sorting rooms, and they'd help us on the washing machines, yeah.
There was only so many keys going then, like, and to be honest, we made our own, you know, because you could be, you know, I should come down to, I still use the old male 5, 6 and 7, you know, from the main corridor. That was all blocked off, and there was just a door there, you see, and once you went in there, you couldn't get out until somebody came to open it for you, you see. So we made our own keys, and we got in that way, and they worked and everything, so we were quite happy with that. Eventually, because they issued keys to everybody, like.
There was one patient that made a replica of the passkey, the head of the passkey. Where he had a pattern from, nobody knows. But he made an absolute perfect replica. This came about when patients were paid in money, that is, instead of tallies, and he used a ½ crown, and it was really, really good.
The steel gates went from all the passages, didn't they? When you used to wear a chain, a key on a leather strap, that all went, and patients were more free about the place. All the builders, painters, joiners, bricklayers, plasterers. In the engineering staff, there was electricians. There was 3 of us electricians, and there was some mates, electricians' mates, plumbers, fitters. There was a man in the engine room and a man in the boiler house. One of the things that we did in those days, the hospital generated all its own electricity. And one thing was different, really. It was 110 volt DC in those days. It was quite an eye-opener to come here, really. It was a little town on its own with everything was self-supporting, really. We even had a blacksmith to sharpen the tools and a tinsmith. Repaired all the tins that were broken in the kitchen. Those days, the washing machines, 4 of them were driven by a steam engine. And Will Hughes, the foreman before I was, he was very proud of this machine. He used to keep it quite shiny, you know. But it had a flywheel on it about 7 feet high. But at night you had to stop it with the piston at the top to get it over the next morning. If you didn't, you had to stand on the wheel and turn it round. And it used to drive a shaft the whole length of the laundry.
The work area was just a basement, an area that we used to actually have to lead to the actual stock that we took into what they call the main stores area was a subway. And in them days we had trolleys with, well, loads of actual stock on the trolley, and we used to have to just push these trolleys physically. There was no electric trolleys or anything like that for many years. And then we actually came to an area where the lift was, and this lift was powered by water. And if things went well that particular day, the lift could take 10 minutes, quarter of an hour to actually go up about 12 or 15 foot into what, as I say, is called the main stores. So we used to have to put the truck on the left, then walk and go right round what they call it, to meet the actual trolley at the top of the area where we actually dispatched the stock round the hospital itself, and as I say earlier, around the other satellite hospitals.